God is uns, God is with us. So they technically wrote Emmanuel here. Like in Hebrew, Emmanuel is God is with us. So they wrote in German, Gott ist mit uns. And when they were killing Jews were like looking and say, okay, they say God is what kind of God, is that he told them to kill us, So that was a really huge impact to reject Christians by the Jews, especially through the Nazi soldiers.
I can tell you that when our son Daniel was in Gaza last year, and I posted his picture on Facebook and Instagram asking to pray about him, I got from Christians a reaction that we raised a murderer of poor Palestinian kids. Wow. So it's, and now I want to give you some tools, because this subject, poor Palestinian kids, definitely put you in the situation where you are like, what about Palestinian kids? Yeah. So I went to God and I told him, I really need some really solid answer. Yes? So if the person says to me, what about poor Palestinian kids? I need to give the answer. And so God reminded me not only of the flood, where everyone, kids, infants, pregnant women, old people, everyone got washed away. Then he reminded me of 7 nations that Israelites were ordered to go and kill. And by the way, this is also very important nowadays, and this is also another solid answer that God gave me, that I always knew that Israelites went and conquered the land and but now I can say to these pro-Palestinian chanters, it wasn't our idea. I mean, we as Jews, Hebrews, we came to the promised land, and 10 out of 12 spices, they say what?
They're too big, too much.
Let's go home, yeah? Let's go to
Back to
Egypt.
Egypt.
Let's go back to Egypt. Let's live in Egypt. Like we don't need this mess. Seriously, okay? And then God still said, you go. You kill them all. Sorry, that's what he said. You possessed by buildings you didn't build. You possessed by vineyards you didn't plant. And it wasn't our idea as Jews or Hebrews. It was his idea. So when people, the problem of the modern church also, that they created the God of New Testament. So God of New Testament is kind of a Santa Claus that lives in a Buddha mode, always happy, always calm, always yeah. So he's always collected. Like he's almost disconnected from us, okay? And on Christmas he suddenly gets out of this position and shares the presents, okay? And this is the God of the New Testament. And people don't understand that he is Elohim Tzevaot, which is in Hebrew the God of armies. So it wasn't again the idea of the people of wars. It was, he is a God of armies. What armies? Dancers? Army of, no. So he actually told to Jews, go and conquer this land. I can't imagine, seriously, that for example, today's world, and God said to my son, go and kill pregnant women, infants, babies. It sounds,
Sounds terrible.
It sounds terrible. But God says, your ways are not my ways. Your thoughts are not my thoughts.
Also, the infants and the women of Gaza just.
Yeah. So no, I'm coming to this. Okay. So and then God showed me that actually why He demanded all these 7 nations. Because they, not only that they worshipped false gods, not only that their fornication already was so huge, like during the days before flood, yeah? They started to actually sacrifice their kids to these false gods in the most ugly way. And so God showed me that every Palestinian mother, 99% of them, they actually dedicate their kids to be jihadists. So they openly say, you can, whatever, go Google, YouTube, whatever, they openly say that they would be happy if their son or daughter one day will die as jihadists, which means one day they will kill as many infidels as possible, because this is the only way to be in heaven. And their heaven is about 72 virgins. Yeah, I mean.
Maybe not for the women.
Yeah, I don't know where the women goes in this case, but this is how their heaven looks like. So God definitely can't stand when people not only, again, sin by themselves, but their kids are rotten already. So Palestinian nation, which doesn't exist, but okay, let's say that Soviet Union, by the way, created some people, okay, that they would be kind of a thorn to our Jewish flesh, and they completely already poisoned by hatred. So there is nothing. It's like with flood when God said nothing to do. It's the same now. So again, it's not our idea to fight constantly for this piece of land. Okay, it's not our idea. Mostly Jewish people say, when, especially atheists, you say to them, "You are God's chosen people." They say, "Would you like to switch the places and to be chosen?" You know. So it's also understandable that we are not there because we are so cruel. As I say to people, I would love to be born Australian. Seriously. Nobody has nothing against Australia. Nothing.
Because they have a nice accent.
Nice
They have cute accent.
Nice accent. No problems with the neighbors. Yes? Nobody actually wants to be so far away country, yeah? So they live there in peace. If you travel with Australian passport, everybody likes you. Everybody. Okay? When we travel right now with Israeli passport, believe me, it's not pleasant. Okay? So we don't know what the person on the passport control feels about us. For example, we flew from Nashville to Portland, and here we are with Alaska Airlines, 2 completely Muslim girls. I mean, the only thing which were black was, they were full covered.
This was Nashville?
Yeah, full cover, but the face. How do you think they feel having our Israeli passports? So it's again, for Jews, this is what it is. God told us, go and fight for this land, and what I understand, that up to his second coming, we will fight for this land, whether we want it or not want it.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, mine is going to be a little bit different, but I wanted to know from you both personally, but when did you become Christians? Were you raised in a Christian home? How did that all transpire?
You start with me.
I can do it short version, you can, whatever.
Extend.
That's not usually how it works, the woman with the short version.
Well,
I will believe her.
he
Okay.
loves to preach. He loves to go to all the details, and because he loves history, then the history comes to his mind, and then he will start to explain to you how it looked like from the perspective of.
He and I would get along great.
Yeah, so there are people who love history, the teacher training college in Ukraine. When the Soviet Union fell down, many American missions came to former Soviet countries. By the way, thank you. So we, in our teacher training institute, there were a couple from New York, John and Mary Mackenzie. She was 68, he was 72, and they came to the most darkest time of former Soviet Union, because it was pretty bad while the country existed, Soviet Union. But you know, when everything fell down, so we didn't have electricity, we didn't have hot water, the elevators didn't work, nothing were on the shelves in the grocery shops.
But pickles.
So, and life was difficult enough for a person who used to this, yeah? So we lived in this, we've never seen better. Okay, so for us it was like, we lived in really bad, now it's worse. But we know that, we used to work like for bad and worse and the worst.
You know how to do it.
Yeah, it was our environment, you know, so we were kind of okay with that. So when we first came to the United States 18 years ago, then I realized the level of sacrifice that these people actually make. So, yeah. So as a result of these people, he became a believer first.
Through Jesus film.
Yes, he watched the Jesus film, and I watched the Ben-Hur movie. If you
The
remember.
old one.
The old one.
The old one.
Yeah. And I had this, as I say, emotional moment. So I loved the movie. I loved what happened. It touched my heart. I prayed the prayer at the end, and that was it, kind of. So I had this moment, but from this emotional moment up to the moment when I started to follow God, it took
To become a disciple.
it took another 8 years.
And you would not have been able to see that movie before the Soviet Union.
No, yeah, it's exactly only because of that the Soviet Union fell down. That's how the missionaries from America could come. And one more, actually, important mentioning that out of 100% of believers in Israel, 50%, or probably 30%, out of 100% of believers, about 70% are Russian-speaking believers. Out of the 70%, 50% came to God through American missionaries. So you could imagine what an impact American nation has on even the situation
That's really powerful.
nowadays
Yes.
situation in Israel.
Yes.
So
I'm sorry, did you say you were living in Ukraine at that time?
We were born and living in Ukraine till 1997.
And then what part of Ukraine was that?
I was born in Yalta, in Crimea, and she was born in Chernihiv.
It's kind of in the center.
No, Chernihiv, it's
no,
Kyiv is-
northeast
yeah.
of Ukraine, and Yalta is the south.
Huh. So that's like Crimea now is Russian, is that? So
It's we call it occupied, temporarily occupied.
hopefully.
Look, okay, whatever. I believe it's temporarily occupied because okay, we will talk later.
yeah,
about it.
that's
Yeah.
a lot there.
You know, yeah, we
It's a lot to say.
we definitely will not be able to,
Cover
to
everything.
tell everything.
Yes.
Just what we know, what we experienced, and so on. So,
About Islam and two remarks about the Old Testament and Islam. Jews don't look at Old Testament as you look or we looked as Old Testament. For them, it's a Hebrew Bible or Kitvei HaKodesh, the Holy Scriptures, and they call it Tanakh. It's Torah or 5 books of Moses, prophets, and the writings. So they look to Tanakh or Old Testament not through the Roman paradigm. They see Tanakh as 8 major covenants which God has made with people. A lot of prophecies in the Old Testament are not fulfilled even yet. And a lot of prophecies in the Old Testament or Tanakh, they speak about the third temple and the 1,000 kingdom, and they are not fulfilled yet, so we can't throw away this book. That's remark number one, or reference. And reference number two, the only known way to paradise in Islam is through becoming a jihadist, a holy warrior of jihad.
Is that right?
Yes. So you
The
can
way
check.
to paradise?
The only, wait, they do 5 major things in order to be saved. They pray, they fast, they give money like, it's not exactly tithing, как это называется, пожертвование. Offering, the offering, it's not tithing, they pay less than 10%. Then they have to visit Mecca at least once in their life. And the 5th one, I don't remember. Okay, so I don't remember the 5th one. So when you ask a regular Muslim person, are you doing all these 5 things? They say yes. Do you go to paradise? They say, I don't know. I mean, yes. But in Quran, it's written, the only known way to paradise is jihad, the holy war against the infidels, and to become a jihadist, or to become a holy warrior, like to fight infidels, or to explode yourself somewhere amongst the infidels. Okay, so that's a certain way to become get to paradise. The question, or critical thinking question, is how can you call Islam a peaceful religion when the only way to paradise is killing infidels? So don't believe that propaganda, that they are peaceful people. They are peaceful until they are the minority. The moment they become the majority, you will wear, I mean, for God's sake, no, but women will be under Islam or killed, or those who would be scared will be wearing all these things, and they will sell women like dogs, and men will be ruling in a Islamic way, not in a biblical way, okay? So I'm just saying the difference in between two things. As for coming to Christ, the movies influence both of us, and the most important part is that to recognize that Christ is the Messiah and the Son of God is one thing. To become a disciple of Jesus Christ is a second thing. Let's say not a different thing, but the most important one, because some people live recognizing Christ as the Messiah and the Son of God, but they don't live in obedience to Him. And you call your nation and again, I'm not going to politics right now, I'm just saying, you call your nation as Christian, like the Christian nation. And it's true, like a lot of people in your nation recognize the Messiah, Jesus as the Messiah and Son of God, but they don't follow His discipline. And I'm not talking about, some abusive things or some violence or some, bad things, but discipline is being humble. It means willingly to recognize His will and His authority over life, and to humble and to accept that authority and willingly going after Him. Because Islam, the word Islam, means to subdue. Islam includes an abuse in its name, because they make people to follow Islam. We don't make people to follow Jesus. It's humbleness. It's not not subduction. Subduction is a
Seduction.
no. To subdue. Subjugate. Sorry, yeah, my English is not. Yeah. So it's not to subjugate people under religion, So it's we willingly choose to follow Christ. That's a very important key thing in our faith. Yeah.
Yet again, the most also important part that Jesus said, investigate the scripture because they all speak about me. What scriptures?
John 5:39.
What scriptures Jesus suggested to investigate?
Had to be the Old Testament.
Exactly. The New Testament didn't exist. So, but do most of the believers investigate Old Testament? complicated. It's too, when you look at the New Testament, well, we can do it. When you look at the Old Testament, it demands on you a lot of sacrifice, a lot of focus to go deeper, to understand all of that. Then Jesus said, if you love me, you will accomplish my commands. And then
No, you will keep my commandments.
we will keep my commands. And then you ask people, what commands? And then where you go? Again. And the most important part that actually Max touched the subject but didn't explain it to the depth, where the Lord and Jehovah spoke.
Okay, that probably will be scary for you to hear.
I'm sorry, can we switch off the...
Yes.
The heat? Okay.
Good. That's
Thank
getting ready
you.
to
Okay.
Yes, it will put all of us to sleep in several minutes.
Yes, probably it will sound a little bit scary for you, but I will explain. As homosexuals took the rainbow sign from the Old Testament for their logo, and people are scared right now to draw the rainbow because it's a homosexual sign, but it's not, It was stolen and perverted by Satan, but rainbow is a sign of God's covenant with Noah. The same way, I'm looking for the answer yet, I haven't found it. In the Old Testament, or Tanakh, God uses his name Jehovah 6,800 times. 824, I think. I don't remember the exact number. 6,800 something times. Everywhere in the Old Testament where it is written, the Lord said, the interpreters decided to cover or to hide the word of Jehovah or the name of Jehovah by the word Lord. I don't know why yet, but in the Hebrew text where it is written, the Lord said to Noah, it's written Jehovah said to, or Yahweh, or Yehovah, in Hebrew it's Yehovah.
Which means Jehovah.
The existing one. Yehovah means the existing one.
Because
Every time, just a second, every time you read the name of God, He was, He is, and is to come, actually that's the interpretation of the name Jehovah or Yehovah. It means He was, He is, and He is to come. So, why it is hidden in the Old Testament, I don't know. But again, the Jehovah Witnesses, very active here, so you are kind of scared to use that word Jehovah because of these Jehovah Witnesses. But actually, if you take the true meaning of Jehovah Witnesses, we are the Jehovah Witnesses. Not because of the theology, but because who we are. And Paul says that we are a fragrance, a pleasant fragrance to God. For one people, fragrance for life. For the other people, fragrance to death. So we are the witnesses of Jehovah. I told you, I'm still looking the answer for that, but when I started to read the original Hebrew, I started to see the imperfections of some translations of the Bible that they're not critical. These mistakes are not critical. They don't change the theology or the idea of redemption. But at the same time, they remove from us those colors, as I said, like small black and white TV and the huge, sphere of being in the middle of that movie, So, yeah, what did you want to say about this, Joe? Just these things, or? Okay.
it's like, I wanted, you actually explained that Jehovah in Hebrew, it's Yahweh or Yehovah. And because he says, not only I am who I am, he says, I was, I am, and I will always be. That's why. So every time, the most important part again, that people don't understand the Trinity. They say Trinity. There is, by the way, no place in scriptures where the word Trinity is used.
Yes.
No. You will never find in any place in the Bible the word Trinity. Okay? So, but we know about that God is three, starting from the beginning. So actually, each one of us should be able to preach Jesus out of the Old Testament. And then you have to observe the appointed days, because this is where it's all not hidden kind of, but the hints of the future events. Okay, so
Let me explain
yeah.
it here a little bit. My first challenge in Israel was God told, like, through the events, obviously, not that God appeared to me, but through the events, He told me, are you able, like, what my new challenge for you would be, are you able to preach Jesus out of the 5 books of Moses? At that moment, I could hardly remember what they were talking about, these books. Like, to preach Jesus out of the 5 books of Moses, it's Old Testament. There is no Jesus there. God said, no, you're wrong. You're wrong. Jesus is there from the very beginning, and He is present. And probably you know Epiphany. The Epiphany, it's a part of theology where it speaks about the appearing of God in the flesh before Jesus. I know probably it sounds a little bit scary, but
Theophany.
Theophany. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Theophany. When Jacob fights with, we all say, with the angel of God, and obviously we imagine, a creature with the 2 wings, and Jacob fights with him in feathers, and he's like fighting with a dove or something, and then